Many believe one dangerous myth: if there's not enough money, just print more. It sounds simple, even logical, but it's a trap that has destroyed economies. Money isn't magic. It doesn't grow on trees. It's a representation of value created through labor, innovation, and production. When we confuse money with wealth, we enter a dangerous illusion. Printing more cash without creating real value is like drawing water in a mirage, ineffective and ultimately destructive. To escape poverty, we must understand, the problem is not paper money. The problem is the absence of real useful value backing it. Poverty isn't caused by a lack of printed bills. It stems from a lack of opportunity, productivity, and value creation. Societies that expect prosperity from money printing are building castles in the sand. You can flood people's wallets with paper, but if shelves remain empty, hunger persists. That's not salvation, it's economic suicide. Currency that's not backed by production is like a check with no account. It looks valid but is ultimately worthless. Wealth comes not from what's printed, but from what's built, invented, and grown. Imagine selling 100 theater tickets for a venue with only 100 seats. Now print 100 more tickets without expanding the theater. What happens? Chaos. People fight for limited spots and prices skyrocket. That's what happens in an economy when demand, money, increases without supply, goods. Everyone has more money, but no one has more access. Inflation kicks in. Inequality grows. The illusion of abundance becomes a recipe for scarcity. Prosperity isn't about having more money, it's about having more value to exchange. It's time to shift perspective. True wealth doesn't begin with holding cash. It starts with the ability to produce, to solve problems, and to serve others. Money follows value. If no new goods or services are created, printing more money simply stretches the same pie thinner. Everyone fights harder for a slice, but no one gets full. We don't escape poverty through printing, only through productivity, creativity, and empowered human potential. That's the foundation of real, lasting prosperity. Inflation is not just an economic event, it's a collapse of trust. When you have more money but buy less, the system has already failed. It's not about math, it's about confidence. Behind the charts lies a society losing faith in its currency. When money no longer reflects value, it becomes empty paper. People panic, hoard goods, shift to foreign currencies, or abandon savings. Inflation is less about rising prices and more about crumbling belief in the monetary system that holds an economy together. At its root, inflation begins with supply and demand. If demand surges due to more printed money, but supply doesn't grow, prices rise. More people chase the same goods, pushing costs upward. Producers then pay more for raw materials and labor. This ripple effect drives a continuous price spiral. The more money flows, the faster trust erodes. No matter how much money is added, if production remains stagnant, everything becomes more expensive. Over time, the system can't sustain itself. Inflation exposes the brutal cost of top-down intervention. It reveals when currency isn't earned but declared. People lose faith, turning to hard assets, gold, land, or foreign currencies. The economy becomes fragmented. Confidence in the local currency fades, savings dissolve, investments stall. The system begins to crack. When money is no longer tied to value, it loses its legitimacy. What remains is a shell of the former economy, hollowed out by disillusionment. Once trust is broken, behavior shifts. People stop saving, stop planning long-term. They spend quickly, fearing tomorrow's prices. Consumption becomes impulsive. Businesses hold back, wage demands spike, panic sets in. The market turns chaotic. A healthy economy thrives on patience, but inflation breeds urgency and fear. Productivity drops while emotional spending soars. It's no longer about needs, it's about survival. Stability evaporates. But the deepest danger is invisible: skepticism. A nation that loses faith in its currency loses everything. Black markets emerge, taxes go unpaid, rules are ignored. Even if money printing stops, restoring confidence is nearly impossible. Inflation isn't just about value decay, it's about losing belief in a nation's financial integrity. And without trust, no economy can stand. Imagine this. 5 people each have $5 and there are 5 loaves of bread. Perfect balance. Each person buys 1 loaf. But now, everyone receives an extra $5. Each person now wants 2 loaves, yet the bakery hasn't baked more. What happens? Demand doubles, but supply remains unchanged. The bakery sees customers eager to spend and raises the price to $10. Everyone still gets only one loaf, but now they've paid double. More money didn't buy more bread. It just made everything more expensive. The illusion of prosperity evaporates the moment you look beneath the surface. This isn't just a story about bread. It's a parable of every economy. When money supply increases without goods and services increasing alongside, inflation becomes inevitable. People feel richer, but nothing new has been produced. The competition for resources intensifies. The poor suffer first, unable to keep up. The middle class watches their savings erode, and the rich, even they feel the squeeze eventually. No one truly wins when value stays stagnant but currency grows. That's not growth, it's dilution. You're not getting more, you're just paying more for the same thing. Think the bakery wins in this scenario? Think again. The price of flour goes up. Wheat suppliers raise rates, delivery costs surge, employees demand higher wages. Inflation doesn't stop at the consumer, it infects the entire chain. Businesses don't gain real profits, they chase rising costs. The whole system inflates like a balloon, thin, fragile, and ready to burst. No one escapes the domino effect. Every added dollar that isn't backed by production becomes a silent thief, robbing everyone equally. The real lesson? You can't cheat reality with paper. To afford more bread, you need more flour, more ovens, more farmers, more workers, more real value. Printing money doesn't grow wheat or bake loaves. It only stretches the illusion. True prosperity comes from expanding production, not inflating wallets. Any currency not tied to productivity becomes a hollow promise. It may look like abundance, but it brings only instability. We don't need more paper. We need more purpose. Hyperinflation isn't just a rise in prices. It's the total collapse of a currency. This happens when money loses value so quickly that prices double by the day or even the hour. People abandon savings and rush to spend before their money becomes worthless. Instead of budgeting for the month, they scramble for bread by midday. Picture this, a wheelbarrow full of cash just to buy a single loaf. What was once currency becomes confetti. It's not just financial collapse, it's psychological devastation. The moment people stop believing in their money, the economy breaks apart like shattered glass. Some governments, facing war debts or economic crisis, believed they could escape collapse by printing more money. But they misunderstood the nature of value. Money is not a solution, it's a mirror. One country printed endlessly to pay reparations, thinking they could spend their way out. But within months, basic goods cost billions in local currency. Their banking system crumbled, pensions dissolved, and middle-class citizens were wiped out. Trust vanished, chaos grew, and radical ideologies took root. Hyperinflation doesn't just destroy economies, it weakens democracies and unravels societies from the inside out. Another nation, after political upheaval and land redistribution, saw agricultural output collapse. In response, their leaders turned to money printing to cover expenses, but it only deepened the disaster. By the peak of their crisis, inflation hit numbers with 20 zeros. A single egg could cost millions. People no longer counted currency, they weighed it. Banks failed, wages became meaningless, and commerce reverted to barter. Once again, the dream of easy money became a national nightmare. Printing paper was easy. Feeding the people was not. Even in countries blessed with natural resources, mismanagement can bring ruin. One oil-rich nation chose to nationalize industries and subsidize everything. When global oil prices dropped, revenues crashed. But instead of restructuring, the government clung to populism, printing money to maintain subsidies. It backfired. The local currency plummeted. Food vanished from shelves. Citizens began using foreign currencies or even bartering soap for medicine. Their wealth lay beneath their soil, yet their children went hungry. It wasn't a resource problem, it was a thinking problem. What do all these disasters have in common? The illusion that printing money buys time, that short-term relief can delay real reforms, but the price is always higher later. When money loses meaning, everything unravels. Investments disappear, businesses shutter, salaries lag, and savings vaporize. Social unrest brews. A nation doesn't fall all at once, it falls inch by inch as trust erodes, and by the time anyone notices, it's too late. No rescue comes from central banks. Recovery requires rebuilding belief, brick by brick. Some people think this could never happen in modern times, but hyperinflation is not about time, it's about mindset. It arises when leaders choose shortcuts over strategy. when a nation forgets that money must reflect real value, not emotion or politics. When accountability is lost and printing presses become tools of comfort, destruction follows. Hyperinflation isn't rare because it's hard to trigger. It's rare because it's so devastating that most avoid it. But all it takes is one desperate decision, made too many times. The warning signs are always there. A growing deficit, a shrinking economy, a printing press humming in the background, but above all, a collective denial of reality. True wealth is never printed, it's built. It's forged through factories, schools, startups, and soil. Hyperinflation teaches one painful truth. When money is divorced from value, nations collapse. No matter how modern, no matter how wealthy, without discipline, no one is immune. Paper can only go so far. Value goes the distance. Inflation is the visible scar, but the deeper wounds of money printing are often hidden. The first to vanish is international trust. When a country debases its currency, global investors retreat. Creditors hesitate. Currencies tumble on foreign exchanges. Bonds become junk. Nations that print to cover debts see their reputation shredded. Interest rates climb. Loans become unreachable. Even wealthy allies hesitate to help. A country's honor, once stained, is hard to cleanse. Paper money can be reprinted, but lost credibility is nearly impossible to recover. Reputation, once shattered, doesn't come back with a press run. Then comes the black market. As citizens lose faith in their currency, they shift to foreign money, gold, or even bartering goods. The official economy shrinks, while an underground one grows in the shadows. Governments lose control. Tax revenue dries up. Laws get ignored. Business becomes dangerous and unpredictable. People hide their wealth. Corruption spreads like wildfire. Printing money doesn't just hurt wallets, it shatters the social contract. And once people start trading outside the system, it's nearly impossible to pull them back. When currency loses respect, the rule of law soon follows. Some argue, why not print only to pay foreign debts? But money is fungible. Even limited printing increases the total supply, reducing the currency's strength. Foreign creditors aren't fooled. They see through the inflationary trick. When they sense devaluation, they raise interest rates or demand repayment in foreign denominations. Worse, they lose trust entirely. No one wants to be paid in play money. Debt becomes more expensive. New deals disappear. In an age of global interdependence, devaluing your currency is like setting fire to your passport. It burns every bridge you've built. Finally, the social fallout. As companies close, layoffs surge. Banks wobble. Families cut essentials. Fear replaces stability. The middle class, once a nation's backbone, is squeezed into extinction. Society fragments. Trust in leadership crumbles. What began as temporary relief becomes a long-term crisis. Inflation doesn't just rob you at the checkout, it steals the future. The cost of printing money without purpose is rarely felt immediately. But when the storm comes, it sweeps away everything that stood unsecured. Economies don't collapse from numbers. They collapse from neglect. If printing money isn't the solution, what is? The answer lies in building real value. An economy flourishes not because its people hold more bills, but because they create more solutions. Every product made, every service offered, every invention launched, these are the real building blocks of wealth. Money should reflect this value, not substitute it. When we focus on producing more, not just spending more, inflation is tamed and prosperity becomes sustainable. Real wealth isn't minted, it's earned. It's time we stop chasing shortcuts and start cultivating capacity. You don't print your way to strength, you build it. It all begins with education. But not rote memorization, real education. One that awakens creativity, cultivates problem-solving, and unlocks human potential. A nation that invests in its minds invests in its future. Skilled, informed citizens don't just find jobs, they create them. They innovate, they export ideas, and they attract capital. Education is the soil in which economic gardens grow. A country with no natural resources can still become rich if its people are well educated. Because the ultimate asset isn't oil, gold, or land. It's people empowered with knowledge and the courage to use it. Next comes infrastructure, the arteries of any thriving economy. Roads, energy, digital networks, transport systems, all these make trade faster, cheaper, and more reliable. Strong infrastructure empowers businesses to grow, cuts costs, and improves efficiency. It's not just concrete and steel, it's connectivity. Without it, even great ideas stay trapped in the minds of their creators. When governments prioritize smart infrastructure, they unlock opportunity. It's the silent engine that multiplies productivity across all sectors. Prosperity doesn't happen in isolation. It moves on bridges, broadband, and well-paved highways. Technology is the multiplier. In today's world, value is often created digitally, through software, platforms, and data. Countries that invest in research and development, support startups, and protect intellectual property see exponential returns. Innovation doesn't just increase output, it redefines what's possible. One person with the right tool can achieve what once took a team. That's leverage. And with it, money can circulate without igniting inflation, because new value is being added. Technology lets economies grow upward, not outward, producing more from less. The future belongs to the bold, the inventive, and the digitally fluent. Entrepreneurs are the lifeblood of economic momentum. Governments can't create all the jobs, but they can create an environment where jobs are born. That means reducing red tape, protecting property rights, encouraging investment, and celebrating risk-takers. When individuals are free to solve problems, sell ideas, and scale businesses, value flows. The more businesses grow, the more taxes are paid, the more people are employed. It's a virtuous cycle. A thriving private sector doesn't just benefit a few, it uplifts everyone. Entrepreneurship is empowerment in action. Finally, none of this matters without good governance. A smart government spends wisely, saves responsibly, and plans long-term. It resists populist temptations to spend recklessly, choosing instead to cultivate resilience. Public money should be used not to soothe, but to seed. When people earn their money, they spend it wisely. When money is handed out, it's often wasted. Growth driven by earned income is more stable, more respected, and more scalable. Lasting prosperity comes from enabling people to thrive, not flooding them with printed promises. Build value, empower productivity. That's how wealth is truly created. Money, at its core, is just a tool. It is not nourishment, shelter, or hope. People do not live on money, they live on what money can buy: food, safety, education, dignity. And if those things are scarce, no amount of paper or digital digits can change that. Money only functions when it represents real, available value. Without that connection, it becomes fiction. A healthy economy requires more than printing, it requires producing. More importantly, it requires remembering that money isn't the destination. It's the vehicle to something far more human: well-being, opportunity, and contribution. Picture a world where you own billions, but can't buy bread. No farmers, no supply chain, no trust, just money with nowhere to spend. In that moment, wealth reveals its true face. Not cash, but capacity. Not what you have, but what you can do and offer. The same lesson applies to us all. Don't chase currency, chase competency. The money will follow. Those who create, serve, and solve problems will never lack wealth. Because wealth is magnetized by value, and value is always in demand. Nations don't grow rich by printing. They grow by unlocking the productivity of their people. The more minds that think, build, and serve, the more abundance is created. If value grows, money can grow with it, without inflation. But trying to cheat the system with shortcuts always ends in collapse. Governments that empower people to earn, instead of trying to appease them with handouts, build stability. Citizens who learn, work, and innovate build futures. Prosperity must be grown, never fabricated. So let this be the core truth we carry forward. Money is not the answer, it is the result. A reflection of learning, effort, strategy, and contribution. Every strong currency is backed by strong minds and stronger values. You don't need to be rich to start building wealth. You need to start building value. Then wealth, true wealth, will come. And no matter what happens in the markets or with policy, value will always find a way to thrive. Because when all else fails, value remains. Money is not the solution. It is the result of value created. A society does not get rich by printing more paper, but by knowledge, labor, and real creativity. When you give something useful, money comes as a reward, not as a goal. Countries that printed money to feed the hungry fell into chaos, while those that invested in people and production rose. Remember, you cannot eat money. You can only live by the value you contribute. Don't chase money. Chase value. Money will find its way to those who deserve it.